I would like to talk to you guys about the failures in everyday life. I know that every day there's something small or big that's going to knock you down. You get knocked down every single day of your life. It's how you handle those failures, though, that change the way you perceive things in life. Everyone's heard the old saying, a little rain must fall, right? Well, I'm going to tell you about some of the rain in my life. And to start with that, I need to tell you guys about who I was in 1997. That handsome young devil right there is a 7th grade version of JJ. Now, I didn't have a lot of friends. And because I didn't have a lot of friends, I didn't have a lot of self-respect. So much so that I spent an entire year with orange and black rubber bands on my braces, even though it wasn't Halloween. And I cared so little about myself, I just took whatever shirt I could find to wear for picture day. That is a Donna Karen of New York t-shirt that my mother got when she bought some perfume. At least I had the lasers in the background, though. That was a cool thing when I was in 7th grade. Also in 7th grade, I would come home every day from school, sit by myself. I drank Surge like it was going out of style, and I loved the Spice Girls. So I was a real catch. During that time, I discovered something. I discovered a personal mantra that has brought me to who I am today. I'm confident in myself. I like the people I surround myself with. And the reason I did that is, the reason I found that out is because I realized every day I get knocked down and I wasn't getting back up. I was just staying on the ground. All these little tiny failures were amounting to me not progressing any further in my life. And that's when I found my mantra. I found my mantra from a UK-based band called Chumbawamba and the song Tub Thumping. Now, if you're not familiar with the song Tub Thumping, the chorus goes, I get knocked down, I get up again, you're never going to keep me down. Now, it's simple words, and it became a #1 hit for a band that lasted all of about 2 seconds. But in those words, I found a way that I could start getting back up in my life and to remind myself that I am the only person accountable for who I'm going to be. So, I figure I got to put this into motion, right? I got to figure out a way to get my new mantra into action. And that action took place in gym class. I would run to gym class so that I could be in the locker room before anybody else, so I could change before anyone else had a chance to see me without my shirt on, because I suffered from moobs, man breasts. Yeah, I still have a pair now. I'm still working on it. It's just the way that things happen to go. But I didn't eat well at the time. I didn't exercise. And so that's what I ended up with. And I hated having people see me without a shirt on. I hated being teased. And it happened every single day. So I brought myself together and I grabbed my mantra and I said, what am I going to do with my mantra? And all of a sudden, oh, that makes so much sense. I'm going to start making fun of myself before everyone else starts making fun of me. And I put up a shell. I put up a little wall of humor, and that humor allowed me to joke about myself before someone else could. I took the power away from them, and that has helped me with so many other things in my life that I find myself saying, gosh, I like who I am now. I don't have to wear a t-shirt when I go in the pool anymore. I can be who I want to be. Now, when you get knocked down in life, there's 2 types of ways to get knocked down. One way is a fast way, one's a slow way. Me getting moobs and being teased and being a chubby kid is a slow way. Before I knew it, I was already on the ground and I was being teased, and that whole ordeal is something that I'm still working on today. But I'm working on getting back up. Now, there's also fast ways that you can get knocked down. And one of the fast ways you can get knocked down is to look in the mirror and tell yourself that you're not good enough. But Brother Ali shares this lyric with us. He says, you might think I'm depressed as can be, but when I look in the mirror, I see sexy ass me. And I'm not going to let that every single day. I'm not going to let that pimple knock me down today. I'm not going to let any of those small things knock me down. I'm going to keep on going. Now, another fast knockdown, this one's a little more universal, you guys might enjoy this, is the fact that, let's see, I have been rejected by 2 Katies, Ashley M., Ashley S., a Rebecca, and 3 Melissas, 2 of which were on the same night. I spent a lot of my life being rejected by women. And that's just the way it goes. And I'm sure a lot of you can empathize with that because you've been rejected as well in those ways. Well, rejection isn't such a bad thing all the time. You might think to yourself, oh, I'm getting all of these no's in my life. No for this. You can't do that. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. Well, just because you're being rejected doesn't mean it's going to hurt yourself. Just because you get knocked down doesn't mean you can't get back up again. No one's going to keep you down. You can't allow yourself or other people to keep you down once you're on the ground. So for me, one of the big things was learning that rejection was actually a way I was being redirected to something else. With all these women I struck out with, I was being redirected towards a different person. I found the love of my life 11 years ago, Jill, and every single day I'm thankful from all the rejections I had before, because those rejections allowed me to find her today. And now you might think a job promotion that flies out the window is a rejection. Well, maybe it means that you've got something bigger going on, but the only way you can find that bigger thing is to pick yourself up and move on to the next element of your life. When you get knocked down, you get up again. Nothing is going to ever keep you down. So in my life, I've had two big knockdowns that were really hard for me to deal with. One of them was slow, one of them was fast. The slow one occurred my senior year of high school. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was so much bigger than my dad, he could fit on my lap. And I love my dad. A lot of my humor comes from him. I'm definitely the person I am today because of his influence on my life. And he encouraged me to get ready to go to college, and I was excited. And 3 weeks before I was going to move to Chicago to go to college, we found out that he had tongue and throat cancer. So that was the beginning of our knockdown. You might think that's a fast knockdown to find that out, but it wasn't. It was a slow knockdown because it started off with a diagnosis, and then it spent 6 months of treatment, and then the Mayo Clinic telling us that there wasn't anything left to do, and the time was short. By the time we heard that, my family and I all realized that we were on the ground, and we had been knocked down 6 months that entire time. It's tough to think about, it's tough to talk about, and it took a long time for my family and I to get back up from that. It takes a long time when you have small knockdowns in your life. It takes a really long time when you lose someone as influential as a parent. Luckily, my mom was awesome, and she did everything she could to keep our family together, minus one. And eventually, we had more smiles than tears. We were laughing at memories, and it was all right to talk about my dad because even though we missed him, we remembered him, and we embraced his memory. And so after many, many years, we were not knocked down anymore. We got up again because no one was going to keep us down. So that's a slow knockdown in my life. Now, a fast knockdown that we had would have been a few months ago when my mother complained about a headache. She said that she had a bad headache coming on and it was getting worse and worse, and so we drove her to the hospital. When we drove her to the hospital, she stopped making sense. Instead of saying, I'm in pain, she would say, I'm in tree. She started complaining, saying, I need more me. And eventually, when we got into the ER, she was talking about how she needed to go back to the house to get an after-school snack ready for my sister and I, who were both full-grown adults at the time. She had had a hemorrhagic stroke, and there was blood pooling in the back of her brain, pushing on her speech center. And she got in immediately for emergency brain surgery, and the neurologists did all they could, but we lost my mother. The shell of her body stayed around for a little bit, but we had to say goodbye, and I never had a final conversation with her like I was able to do with my dad since his death was so prolonged. In fact, the last thing I said to my mom was the day before. I said, we need to renew our Costco membership, which I do every year in her honor now. Losing my mom that fast was tough, and I still have not picked myself up from that knockdown. And I don't know if I'm ever going to pick myself up from that knockdown, but darn it, I'm going to make sure I try, because when I get knocked down, I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. After my mother's death, we found out the cause was called an amyloid angiopathy, which is where amyloid proteins build up in the arteries in your brain, and it's common that they have small brain bleeds. A lot of people see it with Alzheimer's patients or people suffering from dementia. The doctor then told us, oh, good news, it's a genetic disorder as well, and you probably are carrying it right now. They had no idea my mom had it when she went in. It was news to us. Both of my grandparents suffered from Alzheimer's disease, and so a lot of the pieces started coming together in this puzzle. A lot of people ask me, are you going to go get tested for this and find out if you have it? And my initial answer was absolutely not. When I started prepping this talk specifically, I decided it's time that I get tested for this. It's time I find out what my life is going to hold for me. And not because I need to make the next 60 days count, but it's because I want to make sure that my house is in order should something like this happen to me in my life. I want to make sure that I don't leave anything unsaid. I want to make sure that people don't have any regrets. And so 2 weeks ago, I began the process of getting tested for amyloid angiopathy. And whether or not that affects my life as far as my health and my body, it's not going to affect the way I take on life, because I am ready to make every single day count. I am ready to make sure that if you like cake, I want you to try pie. If you want to go left, I want you to try right. I want to make sure that when you get knocked down, you get back up again, because no one is going to keep you down. No words, no people, no places, no things are going to keep you from doing what you need to do to have a happy, healthy life. So when you get knocked down, you get up again. No one's ever going to keep you down.